Howdy folks, so for this Whiskey Wisdom Wednesday, I wanted to take some time and teach you something that I actually recently learned. So some of you may have seen the term sour mash on your bottles of bourbon or Tennessee whiskey and not known exactly what that means. And I was somebody who thought I knew what that meant, but I was in the liquor store with some of my liquor store owner buddies, and I made the comment about sour mashes being different than regular bourbons or Tennessee whiskey, and he actually educated me, and so I wanted to share that knowledge with you. So I thought that sour mashes were actually something different because in certain cases we see sour mash advertised more than other times on bottles, like say for instance this Michters. Also, he educated me that I was pronouncing that wrong. It looks like it could be pronounced like Michters or something like that, but it's actually Michters. As well as this $13 bottle of McKenna that I just reviewed. You see sour mash on that bottle more than you may see on the other bottles, but all major bourbons and Tennessee whiskeys use this sour mash process. It's all just an advertising type of thing. So don't get thrown off when you see that like I did. Also, fun fact, I almost didn't do this video because I drank a couple of old fashions and a little bit or a lot of bit of this McKenna straight. And so this may be like a version of Drunk History. I don't know if you've seen that show at all, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. Okay, so basically what sour mashes are is a distillery uses either 1/3 or 1/4 of its mash bill. Part of that is sour mash, and sour mash is basically what's left over from an already completed distilled process. So, all right, so for distilling whiskey, what do we need? We need grain, we need water, and we need yeast. And so after all of that is aged and you take your whiskey out, what's left behind is kind of that that mash bill. Mash bill is what you need to actually create the whole whiskey, but a little bit of that grain that has been distilled and fermented. And so what they do to keep the flavor consistent from barrel to barrel, from batch to batch, they take a little bit of that and they add actually a lot of it, either 1/3 or 1/4 of that, and they add it to the next mash bill. And so what that does is it keeps the acidity at an acceptable pH balance. Kind of like our bodies, like we don't want the whiskey to be too acidic or anything like that to kind of throw off the balance. And so kind of taking some of that old mash and putting it in the new distilled barrel, it can kind of, not even in the barrel yet, in new process, it keeps things consistent from barrel to barrel. And so that's basically what sour mash is. So if you see that, don't be thrown off. All major whiskeys, or not whiskeys, bourbons and Tennessee whiskeys in particular use it. It's just that process of using old finished distilled whiskey mash to carry on to the next batch to keep that pH balance at a consistent level from batch to batch. And if it's not used for that process, the sour mash process, and the next whiskey distillation process, it's often fed to livestock too. So from what I hear, a lot of whiskey distilleries do a good job of making sure things don't go to waste. Yeah, so my apologies for rambling, but basically, if you see sour mash, it basically is in all major bourbon and Tennessee whiskey, and don't be thrown off by it. But that's it for your Whiskey Wisdom Wednesday, and I hope the rest of your day goes well, and the rest of your week goes even better. All right, cheers, folks. Bye.